From WWL, the news.
All right, gentlemen, let's rock.
House of the Gulf South, it's All Things Legal with Doug Sunseri and Albert Nicaud. Underwritten by Nicaud and Sunseri Law Firm. Join us on the Oakland Heart Jewelers Talk and Text line, 504-260-1870, or connect anytime, anywhere on the Odyssey app. Now, to our Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union studios in the heart of New Orleans, here are attorneys Albert Nicaud and Doug Sunseri.
Hey, good morning. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. Give us a call at 260-1870 on the Oakland Heart Talk and Text line. You text us there. We're on until 10 o'clock. Good morning, Albert.
Hey, Doug, how are you?
Good. We just finished a few hours ago. We had a little shower for Katie, who's pregnant, and we had a little huh?
When is she due?
Well, we had a little discussion because it's anywhere from the Florida State game to the Arkansas game, LSU. So anywhere. So I did ask her last night. I'd really appreciate if she had a say so. Do it the weekend they play Grambling, because on September 2nd they play Florida State, and then September 9th they play Grambling. September 16th they play Mississippi State away, and then September 23rd they play Arkansas, and September 30th they play, or 29th I think they play Ole Miss. So she's due sometime in the month of September. I was just pushing for the Grambling weekend. I could be okay missing that weekend. So that's how we reference things, which we and I'm sure there might be even a few weddings on the LSU Grambling weekend. Probably not, for the Mississippi State and Arkansas weekend. So that's what LSU families do, I guess.
Well, you of all people got married during March Madness, if you recall.
Yes. That was correct.
So we snuck out the back and went across the street and watched a little bit of the game. I have to admit, but came back across the street and
that's right.
Walked people in the aisle.
Man, you got your priorities. That's right. You got your priorities there.
Yeah. Aaron and I got married at the LSU Alabama game. Now it was back when they both kind of stunk.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, way back in, it was 91, and they had a lot of people still had their little earphone in their ear with their transistor radio back then, listening to the game during the reception and even during the wedding. But
and that was even for the Curly. Yeah, that was even for the Curly Hallman era.
Yeah. So I figured we were good to, it didn't matter.
Right. It was a foregone conclusion, even though in 1993, when LSU was, I think they had the 5-6 season, and they beat Alabama, was ranked 1, and they beat Alabama. That was the only thing that Curly Hallman did.
Well, it was the other. I don't know if it was Friday. It must have been. Yeah, it had to be Friday night. I got home. Aaron and I went to Drago's, had something to eat, and we came back. And SEC Network had LSU Day, so all of it was these highlights of LSU. They had the baseball finals, and then the last thing they had the night was the LSU Alabama game from last year with the win in overtime. And so my niece got married. My great niece actually got married that night, way in Cubby Rise on the North Shore. And so, at 9:00, he turned the TV off. Like when the reception was over, they said, "Okay, sorry, y'all have to go." They turned the TV off, so I had to get in my car and listen to it on the radio. So I ended up actually watching the game and how it played out. Of course, I saw highlights, but I had to listen to it on the radio, which was kind of fun too, because you got the local feed.
Well, it is a family tradition. At the risk of getting I remember my dad in 1970. He had one straggling friend who had got married later than everyone else, and they were playing on. They were getting married in the afternoon of the LSU Notre Dame game when they were playing at Notre Dame. It was a 3-0 game with Joe Theismann quarterbacking. And I think my dad and one of my neighbor, who you're very familiar with, Harold, we'll leave it at Harold, were up on the altar, and they were all listening to the game. Others had maybe $1 or two on the spread, and the priest. I remember this is 8 years old. The priest asked 3 times if they could turn the radio down during the ceremony. So this is probably nothing new, but yeah. So that was probably is a common occurrence in New Orleans when you have weddings on LSU weekends. So it was 50.
And it's so funny how people really do their best to try to plan it that way.
Sure.
You know, that let's plan it when it's an LSU out of town game, or let's plan it when it's not LSU Alabama, or the bye week, or you always know that first week of November is a good weekend because it's usually the bye week.
That's right.
But
yes.
So no, it's part of what we do.
That's right. It's like part of the culture. LSU's Florida State's 55 days away. That's going to be a really good game because Florida State has one of the best quarterbacks in the nation, Jordan Travis. He's probably a top 3 or 4 ranked quarterback, and Coach Mike Novell is doing very, very good. So that's going to be almost a bowl game type atmosphere, and so it's 55 days away.
Where they play?
They're playing at Disney World at the Citrus Bowl, so in Orlando. So they will have that, and the Saints sort of this time of year, all the coaches and players are taking their vacation. So the coaches either go to Cancun or Destin or Sandestin, and they catching their breath and they get ready. When you're like part of an assistant coach's family, after about the second, third week, about 2 weeks, you're not going to see your dad or whoever works for the Saints for 6 months. I mean, it's a grind, and it takes a special spouse to understand. Okay, he's going to be out of pocket for the most part for the next 5 or 6 months, and they'll.
And some of these spouses have been around a long time, and they've been with their husbands during the coaching years in college and high school and everything else, and so it's different, but it's not much different. I mean, when you're in college, you're scouting. When you're in high school, you sometimes are going to the other games to scout. You're looking at players, and you're staying late for practice, and it's a tough.
It's a sacrifice.
Yeah, it's a sacrifice, and and it's a sacrifice for those coaches. I mean, they mean so much to the players, especially in the younger years. When the formative high school years and things like that. We talked about this before, and just how coaches have had such impacts on people's lives, and especially a lot of these kids that didn't have father figures in their lives, that they just have this person to look up to, emulate, and they all do such a great job, and it's such a sacrifice because they not get paid a ton of money at the high school level for sure, and it's just a tribute to them. It really is.
Yep, they I always kid, seeing some of the high school coaches with all the hours they've worked, they're probably averaging about minimum wage because of all the time they put in. That's non-compensated time per se.
And then their teachers,
and their teachers,
so they have do that as that, and their whatever study plans and lesson plans and things like that. So it's a pretty full-time job.
That's right. And so they'll be ready. They're getting ready. This season is sort of like we have no idea what's going to happen. I think they have as much of a chance being 6-11 as they would be 11-6, and anywhere in between. I don't think anybody really has a read on this team. I mean, they could go through a very, very weak division. Yeah, a very, very weak division.
I think they make the playoffs. I think they win probably 10 games. And I think they've got all the pieces together. They really didn't lose a lot of players. And like I said, if our receivers come back and and play like they're supposed to play, we have a pretty good shot. Now, which is the running back,
Alvin Kamara,
yeah,
Alvin Kamara.
So they need to plug that hole for a few games, but and not have to rely on the pass so much. But I like their chance. I like the Saints.
Yeah, I think they have as much of a chance to go 11-6 than they do 6-11, and I think the over under is probably 9.5. It's going to be 3 or 4 plays. If they make the plays at the end, they could be 10-6, 10-7, 11-6. If they don't make the plays, then they could be 6-11. Now the rookie quarterbacks, Tampa Bay's quarterback situations got Baker Mayfield. You have Atlanta with their second-year quarterback, and then you have Bryce Young. That's not scary at all, and it's a quarterback-driven league.
It could be his breakout year. You never know. It might be the year that he figures it out, and because he's talented. I mean, the guy's got skill, but it's just he's one of those. It took Brett Favre a few years, right, to fall into a groove and become the Hall of Famer that he became, and so we'll see. That's the only one that really concerns me among the NFC South quarterbacks.
Yeah. Now, as far as Atlanta's concerned, I think the player that's going to give the Saints fit is Bijan Robinson. I think he's one of those guys who's got Reggie Bush-like characteristics, and he's going to be the guy who's going to be our
game plan.
Yeah, pretty much. Because Desmond Ridder, I'm not sold on him, but we'll see. But it's on. That's I think 50. Let's see. That's 63 days away. So that comes quick. That comes very, very quick. So, but for the most part, it's pretty.
Preseason games in a month. They would play the Chiefs. They play the Chiefs on August 13th. And so, I got it. And I've said this over and over. I love preseason. I love to watch the preseason. See those guys laying it all on the field to make the team, and finding that diamond in the rough. That player that really just excels, that, some free agent or an unsignee or, undrafted guy that steps in and just, can make the starting lineup, because he's playing his heart out, and not for the millions, but for, just to make the team. And I enjoy it. I enjoy watching it. The thing that disappoints me most about the preseason game is that the announcers start just chatting with each other during the game, and they start having conversations about all different stuff while the game's going on. And these are these guys. They're 15 seconds of fame or 15 minutes of fame in the game, and you need to be calling their name, talking them up. Yeah, he's out of Northwestern. He did this, and this, and just really focusing more on the players and on the game than on whatever they happen to talk about, and they interview people and they do all this stuff while the game's going on. But,
I think, this preseason, I think people are going to really be looking at Jake Haener, the quarterback they drafted in the 4th round. He sort of, be interesting to a lot of fans just to see, does he have what it takes to make it in the NFL? I mean, the ideal situation would be much like a Aaron Rodgers or Tony Romo, that you'd get a rookie quarterback, let him sort of marinate for 3 or 4 years as a backup, and then he may be your quarterback of the future. So that would be one of the things that and the thing that's exciting about Jake is he's probably similar attributes as Drew Brees, a little undersized, good accuracy, processes the game faster probably than most quarterbacks coming out of college. So I think that'll be a very, very interesting to watch him. They're probably not going to play. They'll play Carr a little bit. They'll play Winston a little bit. He'll probably have the second half of the first 2 preseason games, and see how he handles it, and see if he's the future or not the future. We're always looking. We always. That's the hope. Yep. So. Yep. But that's close by. But okay, next segment, we have Thomas Brown from eClaims. He's founder of eClaims. And he messaged me and he said, thought we were being hard on insurance companies and relative to Hurricane Ida and just in general. And, I sort of we've been texting back and forth, and I say, we're like the complaint line at at a retail business or something. Nobody calls us up to say, hey, I filed an insurance claim. Everything went well. I got my money timely. Right. I just wanted to call you guys and say thank you. But he's taken issue with a few things that we've said. And I said, well, come on the show and let's talk about it. And I think he wants to give a point of view from the insurance company as far as some of the things that how he views the aftermath of a disaster with insurance claims. And we'll get his feedback on it and have a conversation. And we don't cancel people here. We believe in hearing everybody hear out, and let everybody be heard. So we'll have Thomas on after the break. It's Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. We'll be right back after this brief timeout.
Lingered there to touch your hair and walk with me all summer long. We sang a song and then
WWL, home of WWL First News with Tommy Tucker. Always live on the free Odyssey app. The countdown to Saints training camp is on.
I'm glad we got Derek Carr, and I think that's where we have the edge over the other NFC South teams. They don't take the approach that they're rebuilding. They still in that win-now mode, represent the NFC South. We got the best quarterback. Yeah, we should win the NFC South this upcoming season.
Veterans report to camp on the 25th. First practice July 26th. The clock is ticking till Saints football on WWL and the free Odyssey app.
Hey, I'm Andy. If you don't know me, it's probably because I'm not famous. But I did start a men's grooming company called Harry's. The idea for Harry's came out of a frustrating experience I had buying razor blades. Most brands were overpriced, overdesigned, and out of touch. At Harry's, our approach is simple. Here's our secret. We make sharp, durable blades and sell them at honest prices for as low as $2 each. We care about quality so much that we do some crazy things, like buy a world-class German blade factory. Obsessing over every detail means we're confident in offering a 100% quality guarantee. Millions of guys have already made the switch to Harry's, so thank you if you're one of them. And if you're not, we hope you give us a try with this special offer. Get a Harry starter set with a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, shave gel, and a travel cover, all for just $3 plus free shipping. Just go to harrys.com and enter code SPORTS at checkout. That's harrys.com, code SPORTS. Enjoy.
And welcome back to another Safe Money segment. Today we have Glenn, the owner of Gulf South Guarantee, with us. Glenn, can you tell our listeners what Gulf South Guarantee is all about?
At Gulf South Guarantee, we specialize in protecting your hard-earned money and securing your retirement, even during uncertain economic times.
How do you ensure the financial security of your clients?
Downturns and recessions can wreak havoc on people's savings. That is why we offer a range of solutions that provide stability and peace of mind. We have strategies designed to protect your money and maintain a steady income stream regardless of market conditions.
So what sets Gulf South Guarantee apart from other financial firms?
We believe in empowering our clients to make informed decisions. With our user-friendly website at gulfsouthguarantee.com, you can access educational resources, stay updated with market trends, and even schedule a free consultation.
All right, we have Thomas. He is excited and ready to go. I gave him a rundown of how this is going to work. How long do you guys want to talk to him for?
We might take him for next 2 segments, at least.
Carry him until like the 50 break, or maybe even into the first.
Yeah, we'll see how it's going.
Lawsuit before August 29th.
I told him that to expect the length to be as long as you might. He said, sure.
An attorney at Nicaud and Sunseri Law Firm in Metairie and Mandeville. Nicaud and Sunseri can preserve your Hurricane Ida claim if the insurance company attempts to fall on the ball and run out the clock. Call 504-837-1304 Nicaud and Sunseri.
We're back in about 1 minute.
Assets from financial uncertainty. Southern Coins and Precious Metals. SouthernCoins.com.
Are you kidding me? Gas prices are up again? Somebody has to do something.
Well, someone did. That's why I use Upstart.
We're going to come back with Brian Adams.
What's that?
It's a free app that pays you back real money for every gallon of gas or diesel you buy. I just earned 25 cents back on every gallon of this tank.
Hold on. So the Upside app is free and you actually get cash back every time you use it? No strings attached?
Yep, it's awesome. Check it out. It only takes a couple of minutes to sign up.
Instead of just watching your dollars
back in
go
30
into your
seconds.
tank, start putting money back into your wallet with the free app from Upside. With the price of gas today, it's big news and big money. To cash out of your Upside cash, just transfer it to your bank account, PayPal, or a gift card. Upside users have already earned over $200 million. Now it's your turn. Download the free Upside app and get cash back on every gallon of gas. Use promo code HUGE for an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first fill-up. That's code HUGE. Use code HUGE for an extra 25 cents per gallon back in your first fill-up. Cashback's not available in gas in New Jersey and Wisconsin.
All things legal with Doug Sunseri and Albert Nicaud on WWL and Odyssey Station. Connect now on the Oak Winhart Jewelers Talk and Text line, 504-260-1870.
Hey, we're back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, you weekend lawyers, all things legal. Colin back at Master Control, getting that summertime music there. We've got, before we get started with Steve, we're just going to remind everybody, if you have an unresolved Hurricane Ida claim, you have to file a lawsuit in court to preserve any of your unpaid claims, unresolved claims, or your claims expire. So, please, we always get calls after the deadline saying, I have an unresolved claim. We were talking, we're negotiating, and I haven't been paid yet.
Answer, you said Steve, not Thomas.
Thomas. Thank you, Steve. Thomas Brown. I'm sorry. I do that. That is, sorry about that, Thomas. But again, your Hurricane Ida claim expires August 29th. Make sure you take care of that. We got Thomas Brown, who is founder of eClaims, and thanks for joining us, Thomas.
Yeah, Doug.
Hey.
I'm happy to be here. I appreciate you making time for me.
Sure. I think Thomas messaged us. He had I think on LinkedIn, and he had wanted to sort of talk about some of the things that we talk about. He took a little bit of issue with, or has a different point of view. And Thomas, just tell us a little bit about you and how long you've been in the industry, and your background.
Yeah, so Doug, I think it's important to say that I am. I'm not necessarily adversarial to you guys. I think at the end of the day, we both want the same thing. We want a healthy insurance market in the state of Louisiana. And I'm very concerned that we're headed in the wrong direction. I'm very concerned that it's been a poor market for a very long time. I don't see much that's happening to change that. So I do have a couple of critiques about some of the things that you've said, but I think that's a smaller picture deal. And I want to look at this at a really high level. And I want to try to bring some attention to, the things that need to happen on a macro level. So my background, my professional background in claims started when I got out of LSU in '88, and I went to work for the state of Louisiana as a claims adjuster, and I fell in love with the business. And then I worked for the Louisiana Municipal Association for a number of years, and then I got married. My wife's from New Orleans, moved to New Orleans in the early 90s, and went to work for an independent adjusting firm here and worked there for the majority of my career. And then, I too realized difficulties with catastrophic response, which I was heavily involved in at the independent adjusting firm. So I founded eClaim for the purpose of establishing really the first cloud-based claims management platform. And we went to market with that platform in the early 2000s. And so I've been running that company and servicing insurance companies and independent adjusters and other sort of nuanced vendors in the space since that time. And that's allowed me to get really keen insight into the overall machination, so to speak, of the entire industry. And how does the process work from the filing of the claim the disposition of the claim, whether, it's a denial or a close without pay or, it's a claim payment. Our process and system handles that entire workflow from cradle to grave. So I see a lot of what is good, bad, and ugly, as I like to say, within the industry. And I think I've got some perhaps unique observations about what I've seen through over 3 million claims that have flowed through our system through that period of time.
All right. Well, you're talking to the legislature, or you're talking to regulators. What are some of the things that you see need to be dealt with that would be best to, one, for the insured who's trying to get back on their feet, and also two, to stabilize the insurance market?
So I think it's a couple of different questions. I think stabilizing the insurance market is at the highest level the primary function of the Commissioner of Insurance. And I strongly disagree with the approach that Jim Donelon has taken post-Katrina. I often hear him talk about bringing competition to the market. And generally speaking, when you think about economics of how capital markets work, competition generally does bring pricing down. But it's competition that's based on equality, right? So you have two equal competitors driving for business, prices do tend to come down. But what happens in insurance, you're not selling a hard asset. It's not something that the general consumer tends to evaluate based on the quality of that intangible item. They're basing it solely based on premium. And when you base a purchase solely on premium, you don't really understand what you're buying, and you surely don't understand the entity from whom you're purchasing that sort of abstract entity. A lot of people in insurance like to say, read the full policy. Yeah, I think you and I both know that, just like, taxes, most people don't read their insurance policy. They don't understand what's being sold. There's a lack of transparency with the agency model, to where they don't educate the consumer about what's being purchased, both in terms of what the policy says and the company behind that policy. And in Louisiana right now, we're in such a crisis that the companies behind these policies, nobody knows who they are, and they don't care. They just know that, hey, I got to get some insurance on my house. I'll take whatever I can get. And it's that, or go to the insurer of last resort, which is Citizens, which I don't think anybody wants to do, including Citizens. And so we're in a death spiral right now. And the only thing that I hear that's being done is, okay, we're going to get the legislature to fund, $200 million or whatever the number is now, that we're going to try to incentivize some of these carriers to come back and start writing business in Louisiana. So essentially what you're talking about is a subsidy. And when you subsidize companies to come in, when the market is not financially stable and it stands on its own, and you have to pay people money to come here, you're generally not going to get the top players. So we don't have the top the tier one insurance carriers that are willing and anxious to do business in Louisiana. In fact, most of them pulled out after Katrina. And it's sort of a bigger picture than just Louisiana. Obviously Florida's in trouble. California is starting to see a lot of the larger carriers that are refusing or stopping writing new business in California. And it's a general trend because of some just macro environmental issues, which does include climate change, but it also includes things like social inflation. So when you see, these exorbitant judgments and punitive damages that are being assessed on insurance companies, and when you see established bodies that refuse to allow for rate increases, it makes for a condition under which a normal carrier can't even exist. These are not nonprofits. They're meant to make a profit. You want them to make a profit. But the conditions recently have become so unfavorable that carriers just can't do it anymore. So you end up with these startup carriers that are inexperienced, they're underfunded, They're underregulated. They're lacking in skilled resources. They certainly don't have the experience and the wherewithal to handle a sudden influx of claims, which is what we're subjected to here in Louisiana. That's probably, you probably don't have a whole lot of people calling in here complaining about water heaters exploding. They're probably all hurricane claims, I'm guessing.
Yeah, 99.9%. Yeah.
Yeah, but by and large, that's where the industry gets into trouble, is we don't have good catastrophe response. It's a very specialized business. It's very, very hard to do. It's very hard to meet normal claim handling protocols. I see the commissioner of insurance who's punishing good insurance companies because they might have missed a deadline by a few days. That's not helping the situation. What we need to do is create an environment that's attractive to the larger carriers that are well funded, that want to come back here, that get sufficient, actuarially sound rates that are going to reestablish a strong market here. And instead, what we're seeing is, hey, let's throw these guys a bone, hoping they'll come in here and sell us some cheap insurance. And you know what? Cheap insurance sounds great when you buy it, but you buy insurance because you want to have a claim handled. And when you bring in a bunch of companies that are just selling cheap policies and they don't know what they're doing, you're going to get the situation that you're dealing with right now. And that's why I'm calling. I'm fed up with it, and I want to see things change at a higher level.
Okay.
Well, you mentioned a lot of those things, but it's funny because we probably handled over 1,000 Katrina claims, and we're probably over 1,000 Ida claims, and we found during Katrina, you're talking about these big name companies and the big boys, and that's who you want to keep. After Katrina, Allstate was the worst. I remember the Allstate Sugar Bowl, where they came and presented a check and the Allstate check, and they got booed. Allstate was probably one of the worst companies handling claims, and they denied the most claims. In this market after Ida, we're finding that State Farm is doing that. State Farm, to me, is one of the worst. We've got more lawsuits against State Farm, I think, than any other carrier right now, because they just drew a line in the sand early and are fighting these claims. And so, and it's funny because you get some of these elderly folks that just don't understand the process, and they're like, well, that's a good company. I've been with them for 30 years. And I'm like, well, then you know what? They should have paid you. They're holding back on this money. And so, that A plus B doesn't always equal C in terms of having the right, parties in there. And look, I agree. My pedigree, my first 10 or 15 years of practice, I started off 5 years in-house with USF&G Insurance Company. So I'm familiar with the process. Some of my dear friends, we just had lunch not too long ago with claims adjusters that I work with, and I understand their angst and their problems and their, trying to get claims handled. And, when I started practicing law, I wanted to send a letter. I would dictate a letter. It would go into the typing pool. It would come back. I would revise it. It would go back out. It would go in the mail. Some lawyer would get it 2 or 3 days later, and it would sit at his desk a day or two, and then he'd respond. Well, now, I get an email from somebody saying, hey, I sent you an email this morning. You didn't respond. And so the speed of things has changed so much. So I get it. I get that, that their ability to react and respond to so many claims and being overwhelmed is an issue. And so, if it's day 31, we're not going to beat anybody up. But if it's 4 months and they still haven't responded to a claim, these people are out of their houses. They're trying to get contractors in there. They can't sign a contract with a contractor because they don't know how much they're going to get paid or if they'll ever get paid. So those are the things that we're fighting more so than gotcha law. Hey, you didn't pay till day 31. And so, we're going to hit you up with, 50% penalties, et cetera. Doug, why don't we take a break?
We're going to take a break. Thomas, can you stay over for this break? And we want to get your response on that. So let's go to break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. We'll be right back after this brief timeout.
See the curtains hanging in the window in the evening on a Friday night. Little light is shining through the window, lets me know everything's alright.
WWL, home of the Newell Norman Show. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Monday morning on WWL.
That was a great first segment.
883 people lost their lives in motor vehicle accidents. What can we do to lower that number? And we'll continue to discuss the low Mississippi River levels. That and a whole lot more when you join me, Tommy Tucker, always live, local, and original, 6 till 10 a.m. Monday through Friday right here on WWLAMFM.com and the Odyssey app.
Join us at Odyssey as we all do our one thing. Together, millions of things for our planet. Summer means hotter days. Avoid using heat-generating appliances like stoves and dishwashers during the day. Use them during off-peak hours in the evening to minimize the effects of heat and save on electric costs. Late evening and early morning is also the best time to water plants and lawns, as water is less prone to evaporation. When we each share our one thing, it becomes 100 things, 1,000 things, 1,000,000 things for our planet. What's your one thing? Join us at Odyssey as we all do our one thing. Together, millions of things for our planet. Water sports are a great summer activity and can be eco-friendly too. Avoid activities like jet skiing or water skiing, opting for activities like kayaking or paddleboarding instead. Swimming, snorkeling, and diving are great activities too, and have virtually no impact on the environment. And use sunscreen labeled Reef Safe to help protect marine wildlife. When we each share our one thing, it becomes 100 things, 1,000 things, 1,000,000 things for our planet. What's your one thing?
This is Jeff with Seabrook Harbor Marine. There's nothing better than a day on the water, and there's no worse headaches than dealing with your boat when it's not in use. Let Seabrook take the worry away and store your boat in our state-of-the-art, year-round dry stack facility, providing year-round protection. Then, when you're ready for a day on the water, just call and we'll have the boat fueled, launched, and ready to go. When you return to the dock, we'll rinse the hull and safely return your boat to our dry stack facility. Learn more at SeabrookHarborMarine.com.
With hurricane season upon us, the Blood Center needs your help to prepare. And Craig's Electrical and Generator Service wants to help you prepare at home with a new portable generator. The Blood Center and Craig's are teaming up to ensure patient care and your home's care aren't left without juice during stormy weather. Donate blood in July, and you could win one of 10 generators.
Okay, so we're back in about a minute and a half. I think I did the math. We can take this next break as late as, I want to say 50. 4:53. So we'll have a decent amount of time left.
They're spectacular. Celebrating 50 years of Dark Side of the Moon this Thursday night, the Jefferson Performing Arts Center in Metairie. The Dark Side of the Moon and the Best of Floyd, including The Wall. On sale now, JeffersonPAC.com.
Join us at Odyssey as we all do our one thing. Together, millions of things for our planet. This summer, try some eco-friendly water sports like paddleboarding, swimming, or diving. When we each share our one thing, it becomes 1,000,000 things for our planet. What's your one thing? Join us at Odyssey as we all do our one thing. Together, millions of things for our planet. Summer means hotter days. Avoid using heat-generating appliances like stoves and dishwashers during the day. Use them during off-peak hours in the evening to minimize the effects of heat and save on electric costs. Late evening and early morning is also the best time to water plants and lawns, as water is less prone to evaporation. When we each share our one thing, it becomes 100 things, 1,000 things, 1,000,000 things for our planet. What's your one thing? Join us at Odyssey as we all do our one thing. Together, millions of things for our planet. Water sports are a great summer activity and can be eco-friendly too. Avoid activities like jet skiing or water skiing, opting for activities like kayaking or paddleboarding instead. Swimming, snorkeling, and diving are great activities too, and have virtually no impact on the environment. And use sunscreen labeled Reef Safe to help protect marine wildlife. When we each share our one thing, it becomes 100 things, 1,000 things.
All right, we're coming back now.
Things for our planet. What's your one thing?
All things legal on WWL. Consult with Nico and Sunseri now on the Oakland Heart Jewelers Talk and Text line, 504-260-1870. And don't forget to rewind on the Odyssey app.
Hey, we're back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. We're here with Thomas Brown of eClaims.com, LLC. And Thomas Albert had expressed some concerns about or issues regarding the claims process. And I think the only follow-up I have before I let you respond is, I think what has a lot of insureds off guard is, I think after claims, they think it's more of a collaborative process. And after they get into it, they realize it's less, maybe less collaborative and more adversarial in the sense that you have to, really, advocate for your position beyond what they thought they would need to. And how do you, I guess, address what Albert was saying, and maybe insureds who were sort of taken back, saying, "Gee, I thought this was more collaborative, but it's not working out that way."
Yeah, Doug, I don't disagree with that. And just so you know, you mentioned two very well-known companies earlier, and just to give you my perspective on those guys, I'm not going to mention any names,
right.
but I was wholeheartedly a supporter and customer of one of those two for 25 years until Katrina. And I could not believe the degree to which there was dysfunction with that carrier. I mean, so bad that I couldn't even get anyone to find my claim if I didn't have my claim number. I could give them a policy number and they couldn't find it in the system. I could give them my address and my name, but if I didn't have the policy number, I had to go to my agent. And I'm not, that was what, 15, 20 years ago. So things have gotten remarkably better, but they're still very bad, even with the larger company. So I left that company and went to another Florida-based company and had better service, but still with mixed results. So listen, I understand that, and I empathize with your audience. And I'm not here to say that, they don't deserve better service. They do. I think one of the things that's been happening over the last, say, 15 years is there's been an exodus of quality insurance adjusters out of the industry, right? And so, it used to be very lucrative to be a catastrophe adjuster. You went through a lot of training. You were rated based on your performance. You were the first to be deployed. What's happened is there's been a general diminishment in the quality of the adjuster for a number of reasons. A, when the carriers are not performing well financially, they tend to pay the adjusters less, right?
You're talking about the field adjusters.
The field adjusters.
The field adjusters. The desk adjusters.
The field adjusters. And then there's been a technology displacement effect, right? So when you have drones that are coming in, and then you have self-service apps, and you hover, and you have the carrier asking the insured to do things like, hey, take these pictures and these videos, and you can even send us, the measurements and stuff, and we can expedite your claim. Those are good things, but what's happened is you're displacing a guy that used to go out and make good money by doing those things themselves. So the adjusters can't make as much money. So you don't have as much talent that's coming in. You have a lot of the old guys with a lot of experience that are moving out. You have expensive work comp insurance that prohibits people from getting on roofs, and you're using drones. So, when you're competing with technology, the technology is going to win, and the adjusters, the good quality adjusters, are becoming fewer and fewer. And I think that's got a huge negative impact on the industry.
I'm finding that a lot of the old guys are doing appraisals now, and they're the ones taking and collecting and gathering the information, and then they're trying to make their living on the appraisal side. And we've had some very good results with the appraisal process as well. We had a claim, but it wasn't Katrina, it was after that, but it was a big commercial building. They sent this female adjuster out who was a school teacher. I took her deposition, and she was a school teacher 2 weeks before the storm. And she just, she wanted to go make some good money. And so she had 2 weeks of training, and they sent her out on this $500,000, commercial claim. And it was just, and look,
I'll tell you, I've been there, done that. I've been put in that position myself. Historically, I'm a casualty adjuster. And then when the company I worked for got a big contract with a big carrier, I all of a sudden became a property adjuster. And I was certified as a property adjuster, but I got out there and I had no clue what I was doing. And that kind of stuff has got to stop. And I think, again,
they've got to put an estimate out on the streets within 30 days. So I guess if they've got to hire,
I had a friend of mine.
Let's go out and get a number for you.
That's right. I had a friend of mine that, I mean, I get it, as you might imagine, people hear that I'm in claims, and even though I don't do claims anymore, people call me after events like this. But, a friend of my son's mom called me, and she said, Tom,
we're going to go to break when he stops talking. Doug, you can take it away then.
She goes, can you help me with my claim? And I said, well, I don't really do that anymore, but, I'll be happy to take a look at some pictures. So, she emailed me the pictures of the house. They have a 2-story house. A section of the roof was torn off. The bottom was flooded. It was, let's say, very significant loss. And I said, well, what did the adjuster offer? And she said he offered $12,000. And I said, you need to go get a public adjuster. So she got a public adjuster, and they settled 2 months later for $120,000. That's your problem right there. Is there's a misconception that a licensed adjuster knows what they're doing.
All right, Thomas, you want to hang through the break? We got to go to a hard break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, you weekend lawyers, all things legal. We'll be right back with Thomas Brown of eClaims.com LLC. We'll be right back. Fly. Colin.
Yeah, what's up, boss?
Why don't you ask him if he'll stay through the news, and we'll do one segment after that, and then we'll have a good 10 minutes to talk.
Yeah. I was literally going to begin on that.
Yeah, okay.
Is powered by BetQL. Smarter bets start with BetQL.
And on this,
the BetQL app.
we won't go back to him. We'll just sort of go in and out.
Is proudly sponsored by Dudley DeBosier Injury Lawyers. Call 504-444-4444. Non-attorney spokesperson Chad Dudley, New Orleans.
Bonjour, mes amis. Looking for the perfect gift? There's no better way to say I love you than with a pair of diamond stud earrings from Oakland Heart Jewelers. Don't think that all diamond studs are alike. Ours really sparkle, and you don't need a loop to see the difference. Plus, we buy direct, so we bring you the best for less. And no matter how much you want to spend, we have a huge selection of diamond studs to choose from, in every price range, second to none. There's a great work of art in every box from Oakland Heart on Metairie Road.
Okay, so I told him to go take a walk or take a breakfast break or something like that. We'll be back around 9:10 or so. We can put a little bow on the sour. There's not really enough time to ask.
Yeah, right.
This break. But he is more than happy to stick around until 9:25 or whenever we take our first break in the second hour.
The brand new album, Memento Mori, is available.
Good.
For more, visit DepecheMode.com.
Hey, let me ask you something. If I put a little arson.
Doing the math, we'll be back with about a little less than 2 minutes.
Okay.
Formaldehyde in its food. Would you eat it?
Not enough time to really get back to Thomas and talk about something. So
We'll just keep it here. Yeah.
Cancer. So if you wouldn't let a cow drink it or eat it, why the heck?
I was gonna say, and maybe we can push it to like next week or something, whenever. But we could talk about that whole. The NBA's got that new in-season tournament they've got going on this year. That'd be something to say.
Yeah, are they implementing that this year?
They're implementing that this year.
I loved my.
Are they trying to keep interest over 82 games?
Yeah, it's going to be a tournament that happens. I think the tournament's in December, but it starts in November. I want to say it's
I think that's a good idea.
No. Here's what it is: the tournament's in December, but the regular season games that they play in November are both regular season games and tournament games.
I think that's a good idea.
I actually think it's a great idea, and I'm interested in it, not so much for what it will do to the NBA, but what it could mean for other sports. Imagine if the NFL had an in-season, like a one-game in-season championship. That'd be weird, but could it work?
Well, the Pelicans would have been in the playoffs last year if they had that in-season tournament while everybody was healthy in the beginning of the year. We were 23-14 and rolling.
Okay. We'll come back with just some music, no rejoin, and we can talk a little
Okay.
bit. We're back in about 30 seconds.
Okay,
so we'll
gotcha.
Back like 58 flat, which is that's a little under 2 minutes.
Tell me this: what's harder, winning a Cy Young or an Emmy Award?
Oh man, winning a Cy Young, it takes a lot longer to happen. You know, it's funny when you mention something like that. I just go back to all those years of being predicted to win and just feeling like a failure. But in '96,
All right, we're back in about 10 seconds. Remember, Thomas isn't here. I told him to go, walk around.
Yeah.
Coffee or whatever.
Download the Brett Boone Podcast, available on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcast.
Take it away whenever you want.
Hey, we're back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. You can also call us our law firm at 504-837-1304, 504-837-1304. We ran long last segment, so Thomas Brown, who we had on the last two segments, has agreed to stay through the news break, which is another 10 minutes, and we'll sort of finish up our discussion. I think it's very constructive discussion as to the issues on the table, and Thomas had some pretty good ideas as observations.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And look, a lot of it is these desk adjusters have supervisors, and then supervisors above that, and claims managers, and they have to document their files. So help me help you, right? Get your photographs in order, get your documents in order, get your estimates in order, and submit those. And of course, you need to do that as an insured to prove your claim and start that clock ticking. So, a lot of it is not the insurance company's fault that we find is that, the insured didn't give them the proper information or enough information.
So we'll finish that discussion on the first segment after the news. So Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. Stay tuned for national news, local news, and we'll come back with Thomas Brown for the first segment out of the news. So we'll see you in about 10 minutes on all things legal.
Great first hour.
All right.
I was saying great first hour.
All right. Good job. There you go.
Home of the Saints and LSU. WWL New Orleans, WWL FM and HD1 Kenner New Orleans. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
I'm Wendy Gillette in New York. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is returning from China after talks that she says were productive and direct. The BBC's Rupert Wingfield-Hayes.
Ms. Yellen speaking very positively about meeting face-to-face with her Chinese counterparts for the first time, meeting the new team in charge in China, and that they have re-established face-to-face dialogue. Yep. But I don't think anyone should think this means that US-China relations are now back on, really positive course, because real disagreements remain between the US and China. And I don't think there's much prospect that those disagreements are going to disappear anytime soon.
As the heat wave sticks around in parts of the Southwest, some students are taking action. KPIX TV's Jocelyn Morin reports from Concord, California.
Students like Sofia Flores worked together throughout this last school year to create what they believe is very much needed.
Detachable umbrella that's like the main shade for our rest stop. And we have these portable chairs, like soccer chairs, I guess, that people can sit on and have lunch.
They did it knowing people in their community could benefit from this.
We just thought it was a really important thing for the people who are picking our food and just working these long hours to have a place where they can just come and rest at least for 10-15 minutes.
Chicago police are investigating allegations against officers involving migrants housed in a police station. WBBM TV's Maribel Gonzalez.
Allegations of sexual misconduct involving police are sparking outrage among community members.
And if any of the allegations are found to be true in fact, we will take charge and attempt to hold them accountable for their actions.
Sources say as many as 4 officers from the 10th Police District had improper sexual contact with at least one of the migrants taking shelter there. Sources also say one of the officers has been accused of impregnating a teenage migrant.
A college football coach wants his job back. CBS's Matt Piper.
Bob Huggins says he never resigned as West Virginia's basketball coach following a drunken driving arrest and wants his job back. An attorney says Huggins' wife, and not the coach, sent a resignation notice to the school last month. He was charged with driving under the influence in Pittsburgh on June 16th. In a letter, Huggins' attorney threatens a lawsuit if he's not reinstated.
Soccer great Megan Rapinoe has announced she'll retire.
I'm just really grateful to be able to do it in this way. I understand that it is incredibly rare for athletes of any stature to be able to go out in their own way, on their own terms.
This is CBS News.
Find great hires fast with Indeed. Their end-to-end hiring solution makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates all in the same place. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
Lowe's believes in giving back to the communities they serve. That's why they're partnering once again with HGTV to honor people making a positive impact in their communities with a second season of HGTV's Build It Forward. Inspired by the Lowe's Hometowns Community Impact Program, hosts Tanya Nyack and Shane Duffy are traveling the country to surprise deserving community members with life-changing home renovations. Watch Build It Forward, all new Saturdays at 6/5 Central, part of Rescue Saturdays on HGTV.
Solving mysteries is hard. Streaming them isn't. We need to know what happened.
There's someone else pulling the strings here.
This month, get in touch with your inner detective and stream the best selection of British mysteries during Mystery Month on BritBox.
That is interesting.
Watch entire series of fan favourites, including the newest seasons of Luther, Silent Witness, Father Brown, Vera, and more.
My lips are sealed.
No one does mystery like the Brits. Start streaming now with a free trial at BritBox.com.
WWL First News. I'm Ian Ozan on your official weather station, WWL.
Expect widespread scattered showers and thunderstorms this afternoon. We can see some possible heavier downpours that might lead to some isolated flooding concerns. It is going to be a hot and humid day otherwise, with high temperatures reaching the lower 90s.
Your local weather expert, WWL TV meteorologist Alexa Trischler, has a full look at your forecast coming up in just a few minutes. Which LSU Tiger will go first in the Major League Baseball draft? That's the question local baseball fans have been asking for the last few weeks. Today, we'll find out where pitcher Paul Skeens and outfielder Dylan Cruz will go when they're selected during the first round of the MLB draft. The draft begins at 6 o'clock tonight. Steve Geller will have more a little later in sports. An early morning shooting in Algiers has landed a man in the hospital. It happened around 3 o'clock this morning on General de Gaulle near General MacArthur. NOPD officials say the victim suffered multiple wounds. The Crescent City connection is back to normal after two incidents caused heavy delays on the bridge on Saturday. WWL TV's Rachel Handley has more.
Photos show at least one 18-wheeler and one car were involved. The NOPD says 5 people were taken to the hospital. Then, just as things were getting back to normal on the eastbound side of the expressway, a car burst into flames on the westbound side of the bridge.
The NOPD is still investigating the initial crash, injured in the later car. A motorcyclist is dead after a crash in Marrero. State police say Kyle Wooten ran his motorcycle off the road in a curve on Barataria Boulevard. The motorcycle went airborne, causing Wooten to be thrown from the motorcycle. Wooten died at the scene. That crash remains under investigation. New Orleans Saints defensive back Tyrann Mathieu is giving back to his hometown ahead of training camp. Today, Mathieu is hosting a football camp for 300 children at the Saints practice facility. And on Saturday, the Honey Badger hosted a back-to-school jamboree at the Lafitte Greenway. When the carnival was over, Mathieu gave away school supplies to all the children who attended the party.
I know a lot of these kids don't have these things going on in their neighborhood. So, I think it was really all about getting them out in the park, right? Getting them away from their environment, getting them around other kids, watching them play games, watching them compete. So I say so far, man, it's been a blessing.
Here's Steve Geller with WWL Sports.
WWL Sports is brought to you by People's Health. The first round of the Major League Baseball draft tonight will be highlighted early on by a pair of national champions.
Payout delivery from Skeens. Breaking ball called, strike 3. Buckled his knees at the plate. And Paul Skeens strikes out the side to get it started here on Friday night.
LSU
LSU's Paul Skeens and Dylan Cruz could be selected 1 and 2 overall, which has never happened in an MLB draft. The Tigers' dynamic duo would be the first teammates taken with the top 2 picks. Steve Geller, WWL Sports.
Now, your Garcia Roofing forecast on WWL.
Keep the umbrellas and rain gear handy over the next few days. We've got some more widespread rain and storms on tap for your Sunday. This afternoon, a couple of storms might end up being on the stronger side, possibly giving us some brief gusty winds, and especially looking at some times of heavy rain. And those steady and soaking downpours from the storms might lead to some isolated flooding concerns, maybe some street flooding. Definitely need to drive carefully today.
All right, we still got Thomas. I told him that our next break should be expected to be around 9:29.
All right.
To give an idea of what if the conversation is finished by then,
we'll get up.
Wrapping up.
Kind of trending more on the wet side. We'll have more widespread rain and storm coverage both Monday and Tuesday afternoons. Both days we can see some times of heavy rain. Cooling showers are nice, but it is going to be hot and muggy otherwise with high temperatures in the lower 90s. From your local weather expert forecast center, I'm WWL TV meteorologist Alexa Trischler.
I'm Ian Ozan, WWL First News.
From WWL, the news, talk, sports powerhouse of the Gulf South, it's All Things Legal with Doug Sunseri and Albert Nicaud. Underwritten by Nicaud and Sunseri Law Firm. Join us on the Oakland Art Jewelers Talk and Text line, 504-260-1870, or connect anytime, anywhere on the Odyssey app. Now, to our Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union studios in the heart of New Orleans, here are attorneys Albert Nicaud and Doug Sunseri.
Hey, we're back. Hour number 2, Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. Give us a call, 260-1870, or text us on the Oakland Heart Talk and Text line. We've got, starting out the second hour with Thomas Brown, owner of eClaims.com, LLC, and we're just having a little discussion about insurance claims in the aftermath of a hurricane and some of the issues that arise. And Albert, if you got anything you want to follow up with Thomas starting out?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know if Thomas heard the last little segment, but quite often, from a claims adjuster standpoint, the desk adjuster, it's help me help you, right? I have a claims supervisor and then a claims manager and people up the line looking at my file, and I have to make sure it's properly documented. So, before I make a recommendation to pay. And so if, I don't have the appropriate photographs or the appropriate estimates, et cetera, or even just on the causation side as to whether or not it was caused by the storm, I'm not going to be able to make that payment or pay that claim. And so a big part of what we do is, make sure that those ducks are in a row and that we have the proper photographs, we have the proper estimates, we have the documentation necessary to make a satisfactory proof of loss, to where now it's in the adjuster's court, the insurance company's court, to say, okay, gee whiz, I have to come up with a reason why I shouldn't pay this now, as opposed to I don't have enough information to pay it. So, that's kind of the process, and things fall through the cracks. I mean, there are horror stories, where adjusters, you can just tell, are trying to kick it down the street a little bit. Oh, we're going to have a reevaluation by an engineer, and I haven't gotten the engineer's report back yet. And we want to come out and re-inspect. And, so all of these things just keep moving it off their desk for a little while so they can handle 20 other claims that they've got to handle that day.
So let me ask you a question about that. Is it your opinion that kicking of the can is done because there's a concerted effort, which is, perhaps not put into writing, but generally put into practice verbally from the top down, that insurance company management says, we want to slow walk these claims? Because I think that's the peeve that I have with the post I saw from Doug on LinkedIn that said, I believe, quote, don't forget that many insurance companies tend to slow walk or slow play claims in the hopes that they just go away. And, I'm a lifelong insurance guy. I've worked with and for a lot of insurance companies, and I think that's the farthest thing from the truth. Again, I think you guys are always going to see the worst of it naturally. So no one's, like you said, no one's going to come and call your show and say, "Oh man, I had the best result on my claim." As a plaintiff attorney, you're also not going to have those guys come to you and say, "Hey, can you represent me? They paid me too much." So I think there's a little bit of, skewed vision on perhaps both sides. And everything that I've seen in every insurance company that I've worked for, the motive is to pay the claim as soon as possible and make the insured whole. And I know that you guys see the exceptions to that, and I know those exceptions exist, but I don't think it does any good to disparage the industry as a whole and make statements that many or most or whatever it was insurance companies don't want to pay claims, because they do. And so, what I'm here to say is, hey, let's acknowledge the bad on both sides and let's address those things. And again, my concern here, and I think the reason I'm calling is that, we need a better market here. And it hasn't happened. And we've had 20 years of leadership that I'm seeing the same thing over and over again, and it doesn't work. And so, yeah, I do have ideas for specific things that need to be done that need to improve the quality of adjusting and adjusters in Louisiana. I've for the last 23 years, I've introduced technology solutions that eliminate a lot of the slow walking and the things falling between the gaps. That's what I've committed my profession to. And I wish that the powers that be in Louisiana were more receptive to that. And I don't see it. Frankly, I see a political organization that likes to make noise and doesn't do anything.
Well, the other side of the coin to that is, you've got the insurance industry after Katrina, right? So, but for the breaches of the levees, this would not have been this major catastrophe that it turned out to be, Hurricane Katrina. And so very many of the write your own companies that were handling claims on behalf of the flood carrier, the NFIP, whatever, and they paid claims quickly and paid them, generously. I started collecting the big carriers, State Farm, the Allstate. I started collecting a lot of their documentation as to what they were paying under their wind claims versus what they were paying under the flood claims they were handling on behalf of the NFIP.
Huge problem.
Yes.
That is a huge problem that, people talk about, but nobody's solving. We need an insurance policy that covers surge, not just flood or wind. We need one that covers surge, because that's the problem. You got every wind carrier that wants to say, hey, they got water in the house, so I'm not paying anything on wind. And I think it's bull. I was told not to curse on here, so I won't say what I want to say.
Yeah.
Bull chips. Bull chips.
No,
Yeah,
and
sure.
again, so my point is, though, that they were paying, let's say $1.50 a square foot for sheetrock replacement under the flood, but they were only paying 85 cents a square foot under the wind. And so I started gathering those, and we were just so busy, I didn't have time to put it all together and hire a bunch of people to examine it and evaluate it. But it was just a big discrepancy. And so, they were trying to make you whole through the flood to where they wouldn't have to pay as much out on their own nickel. And then what happened? So again, if there is no flooding, the wind carrier was not hit so horribly in Katrina. It was a big claim, no question about it, but they were not hit so badly. But then they doubled our premiums. And so for probably 10 or 15 years, or 10 years at least, there were not really any major storms in Louisiana, but they were making these double premiums on not so horrible claims from Katrina. I mean, because again, the vast majority were the flood claims. And so it was just, it's now all of a sudden, oh wait, we've had 2 or 3 storms in a row, we're pulling out. Well, where you were doing great and making tons of money, like way too much money on your premiums because you raised them so high based on this catastrophe that was Katrina that was mostly paid by the federal government through the NFIP. So, you got to take the good with the bad and stick around. And some companies have done that. But, I think if they could get a handle on what they're doing, like you said, and it's not this, fire drill where people are just running around screaming with their heads, popping out because they don't have it.
It's reactive instead of proactive.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the main reasons that I called is that I just don't see a concerted effort to improve the manner in which we address catastrophic claims management in the state of Louisiana. Now, Florida's done a lot. I haven't seen anything here, and it's always the same old story. There's confusion, there's miscommunication, there's inefficiencies, and I don't know who to blame for that. At the end of the day, you would hope that the insurance companies are going to step up and they know what they're doing. I don't have a whole lot of faith in that. And look, you sort of premise me calling here as calling on behalf of the insurance companies. I'm calling because I want this to change and I want our state to do better. And I think people deserve better. So I'm not calling as an advocate for attorneys or an advocate for insurance companies. I'm calling because I recognize a problem that's not being fixed. So who's going to own that? Who's going to be accountable for fixing it? Is it Jim Donelon? Is it supposed to be Jim Donelon? Is it the legislature?
I think there are 2 things we can do, right? One of them is being done, and we're going to see how the insurance companies respond to that. And that is the whole fortified home issue that they've now signed into law.
I think it's great.
That you'll save 25 to 30% of your claim if you have a fortified roof. Now the problem is 80% of the people that have been affected already have a new roof put on since the storm. So
right.
They're not going to be able to take advantage of that. But 90% of the claims in a residence come through the roof, and so if you have a fortified roof, it works.
How many of your HO3s have ACV for roof? Probably not many, right? Yeah.
Right.
So I don't know why people are not looking at that, because I'll tell you, I just wrote this story on LinkedIn talking to a friend of mine who's an IA in Florida, and I had my entire roof. I live in Belle Chase. I had my roof replaced 8 years ago due to a hailstorm, and we've had 2 hurricanes since then. And each of those storms took off a number of shingles. I didn't get a new roof either time. I didn't push for a new roof. I didn't want a new roof. I've got a good roof. So I patched it and I paid for it myself. My wife complains when she drives down the street because she can see discolored shingles on the roof. But I'm like, it's like a badge of honor to me because, I didn't cause a bunch of environmental waste and I didn't waste the insurance company's money. My roof works great. But, the problem is you have replacement costs, which incentivizes roofing companies and PAs to go out and tell people they're going to get a free roof. And that just blew the market up in Florida. I hope that doesn't. It does exist here to a lesser extent, and I think there's a lot of attention that's been paid to it. But that's a big problem.
Well, I think Florida has a uniform.
What we're talking about with that is training, right? So what should not be allowed to happen is the school teacher gets 2 weeks of training through some training program, gets a certificate, and all of a sudden gets thrown out on the streets to do all these claims. There needs to be a training program that is very comprehensive, that may be a 6-month program, where you're now some sort of STAR certified adjuster. And
look,
you can command.
I agree with you. I think there's a different license. There's an elevated license that needs to be had for catastrophe adjustment.
Yeah, for CAT claims, and then you don't have the $12,000 payment on a $90,000 claim because people know what they're doing. They know what to look for, and they put them on the table. And it saves everybody money: the time, the money, the effort, the claims process, the lawyers, the whole bit. So if those two things can be implemented, very simple things, I think that would solve a lot of the problems, because most of the things we see, there's this court of appeal case, it's the Agigi case, and basically it says, look, if you paid $10,000 the first time out, and now you agree, or there's an appraisal process or whatever, and it's $100,000, you are bad faith per se, basically, that you had the opportunity to adjust this fairly and you didn't do it. And so you're in bad faith even after coming up with the additional money. Yeah. And so, on the
I'll tell you two problems with that. It shouldn't have to be 10x, right? It can be as little as if you pay 50% more than what your initial offer was. The problem, though, is you got to go to court to get that award. And I'd like to see something where if an insurance company pays $12,000 on a loss that they settled 2 months later for $120,000, or even $18,000, then there needs to be some type of penalty at that level without requiring that to go to court. And so, how many of these cases occur that we don't know about because we don't have a public record of a case law?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No. And I agree. And unfortunately, what happens is the insured has to get us involved. And so now we have to take a fee. We have to hire a third party to go out and do an inspection. We have these other costs that they incur, when all of that could have been avoided if there was some, like you said, some sort of process whereby they could bring it to an arbitrator and say, hey, look, this is what they paid. This is what they paid. Now, what it would do, I think, is disincentivize the insurance company from paying more, because if they know that they're going to get penalized for doing so, then I might as well just not pay it and then, take my chances on the penalties down the road and fight the fact that the damages.
Yeah, maybe, but that case isn't going to go away. And that just means that, yes, it's got to elevate to the guys that you guys have to be brought in. But what it will do is just say, I'm not going to hire a school teacher anymore. And I'm not going to hire an IA firm that's going to hire school teachers. It's going to make sure that those people are qualified. And you don't get a $12,000 estimate to begin with. And if you do, hell, like you said, you got 3 levels of approvals that it has to go through before, somebody signs that check.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to catch it. If it's not the school teacher, then, it needs to be the file reviewer in the office, and hopefully that's not a dog catcher. There's multiple layers of checks in these things, and somebody should be able to look at the photographs like I did. I opened up the email and looked at the photographs. I said, $12,000, that's insane. So, that's intentional. And that has to be stopped. And we should create something, a review committee, to where when those things happen, it doesn't have to go to court, and you don't have to have a judge who says, this is gross mismanagement of the claim, I'm going to slap a fine on you. There needs to be a record of that as an intermediary solution. And, I have data that shows all this kind of stuff. I don't think that our state is aggressively using technology. I think they barely use technology at all. This information is readily available. You got AI that can run engines on this, and they can do comparisons, and they can find anomalies. We're just not doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. I got one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a text for Thomas from a listener that says, what major insurance carriers would your guest Tom like to see enter and write policies in Louisiana?
I'm not going to mention any names
here.
Okay. I mean, it's a huge market. There's a lot of great companies out there. I think you guys mentioned a second ago that there were companies pulling out of Louisiana after Ida, and I don't know of any that pulled out of Louisiana. I know of a bunch that went bankrupt, but the pullout was done after Katrina, and it wasn't a complete pullout. It was just stop writing new policies. So, they kept the good business and refused to write any new business. which, it's a free market. They ought to be able to do what they want. But until such time as we have a favorable environment that carriers are going to come in here and they don't have to be subsidized.
When he stops talking, you can
we're going to continue to languish this with these sub-rate and sub-quality carriers that they just come in here.
I think Albert's going to want to say something first, though.
X millions of dollars from the government to come in, and they don't do pre-underwriting inspections. They come in and they write anything that anybody's willing to pay them a check, and they just hope that we don't have storms. And what happens is we have storms, they can't handle it. They didn't buy sufficient levels of reinsurance. I mean, that's another thing. Why don't we, why don't we make sure that these carriers are adequately funded, which includes multiple reinsurance tiers?
Well, Thomas.
Right, so listen, Tom, thank you for your time. We got to take a hard break now, but we really appreciate your insight. Not all insurance companies are bad or insurance adjusters, but we just see the bad a lot of times, and so we get a little jaded. But thanks for the call.
Also, Thomas, Kirk Talbert's your point guy in the legislature, Senator Kirk Talbert. He's probably got the most balanced view on the issue, and he's the one who can get things done. All right, but Thomas, thanks for joining us. Have a wonderful Sunday.
Appreciate the time.
All right. All right, we'll be right back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers. We'll be right back after this brief time out.
Every time I open my mouth, steps it right to put me out.
WWL, home of Louisiana's great outdoors with Don Dubuque. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
News, weather, and traffic.
That was great. I like getting out of our comfort zone and having guests.
Yeah.
News, weather, traffic.
When you need it.
The news,
weather,
traffic. Every day.
And that was insightful. I'm gonna take similar to what we did with the LSU episode. I'm gonna podcast the first hour, the second hour, and then I'll splice together all of Thomas's segments, and we'll upload all of that.
It was good. It was very good.
I get my news. The news, weather, and traffic.
This is WWL.
We're cruising right now. We can come back and talk a bit more about stuff.
Yeah.
Any callers, I'll let you know.
Okay. I was going
First grade, and she found a new best friend. It's a laid-back Sunday afternoon. You wish
you were gonna what?
No, that's.
What are you thinking music-wise? What are we coming back with?
Beach Boys song. A summertime song. Fun.
A delicious pint of coffee ice cream with
Or
chocolate-flavored chunks and
Wouldn't It Be Nice? That's a good summer song.
We can do that.
All you need to perk up your day.
The good old days are being made right now. The good old days are being made right now.
Look for Bluebell ice cream at all Rouse's supermarkets.
Hey, it's Tommy, and 1 hour with Dr. Anand at GNO Snoring and Sinus changed my life. It's been 7 years since my sinuplasty procedure and still no persistent stuffy nose, headaches, or sinus strips. GNO Snoring and Sinus accepts Medicare, Medicaid, private insurance, and Medicare Advantage plans. If you have any problems with sleep apnea, sinus issues, snoring, or breathing in general, please go to GNO Snoring and Sinus and see how 1 hour could change your life. To learn more, go to gnosnoring.com. That's gnosnoring.com.
Suicide is a topic that hides in the shadows. We often don't say anything even when we notice someone is struggling because we're afraid of making it worse. It's time we talk away the dark. Learn how to spot the warning signs for suicide and how you can have an open, caring, real conversation to help save lives. Visit the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention to watch the new short film and learn more at afsp.org.
We could do, so I've got the Beach Boys, Wouldn't It Be Nice? We could also do like Good Vibrations, or they've got a nice cover of California Dreaming.
I love that. Let's do that one. Let's do that one. That's a great. They sing it better, as good as Wilson. Mamas and Pop. I say Wilson Phillips. That's the parent.
Bring your car to Accident. Does your car have hail damage? Call Accident at 504-259-DENT. Call now for a free estimate on your hail damage. 504-259-DENT. Now it's shops in Hammond and LaPlace. Accident, x-a-dent.com.
You've heard about it? We've got it. Semaglutide. RejuveMeMedical.com.
Are you kidding me? Gas prices are up again? Somebody has to do something.
Well, someone did. That's why I use Upside.
Upside? What's that?
It's a free app that pays you back real money for every gallon of gas or diesel you buy. I just earned 25 cents back on every gallon of this tank.
Hold on. So the Upside app is free and you actually get cash back every time you use it? No strings attached?
Yep, it's awesome. Check it out. It only takes a couple of minutes to sign up.
Instead of just watching your dollars go into your tank, start putting money back into your wallet with the free app from Upside.
All right, we're back in about 30.
Today, it's big news and big money. To cash out of your Upside cash, just transfer it to your bank account, PayPal, or a gift card. Upside users have already earned over $200 million. Now it's your turn. Download the free Upside app and get cash back on every gallon of gas. Use promo code HUGE for an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first fill-up. That's code HUGE. Use code HUGE for an extra 25 cents per gallon back in your first fill-up. Cashback's not available in gas in New Jersey and Wisconsin.
All things legal on WWL-AMFM.com and the Odyssey app. Connect with Doug Sunseri and Albert Nicaud on the Oakland Heart Jewelers Talk and Text line, 504-260-1870.
Hey, we're back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. The Beach Boys covering the Mamas and Papas, California Dreamin' there. I think they do it better than the Mamas and Papas, but I'm partial to the Beach Boys. But interesting segment last hour. You know, I was letting you guys sort of go back and forth. I think what was Thomas's concern was the post. I think I had posted that insurance companies have a concerted or do have a strategy that maybe slow walk certain claims, and they all understand the natural progression of maybe slow walking is a lot of insureds will fall off and say, throw their hands up and say, hey, I'm not willing to do what it takes or advocate to get a claim, or they just sort of give up. And you know, I don't think I do think that the insurance companies have dual, I guess, obligations. One obligation is to pay out claims, and other obligations to their shareholders. And those two obligations are contrasting and I don't want to say conflicting, but are in two different directions. And you know, it's interesting in the car dealership business. They did a lot of studies, and you know, when you go in to buy a car, or traditionally, you had a negotiation. And a lot of times negotiations would extend for several hours. And what they found was 50% of the consumers have a high level of discomfort in advocating or having a negotiation in a business context. It causes them stress. And so the car dealerships, some of them started saying, look, we'll have a negotiation-free transaction, or we'll just have a price, you can buy it or not price, because they wanted to encourage that segment of people who are uncomfortable with a negotiation to come in and buy cars. And I think they found that people were delaying buying cars because they didn't want to go through the process. And I think the same issue occurs on insurance companies, where you don't have to state it, but they know a significant part of the population or consumers are uncomfortable with the negotiation or adversarial type process that's necessary in order to advocate for their claims. So they think they'll fall off at some point during the process. And I still believe that. And
I agree with that. And listen, you know, there's a lot of times it's the desk adjusters issue, right? They're just so overwhelmed. They're trying to get things done. They've got too many claims assigned to them. And so what they end up doing is, I'm going to get it re-inspected. You know, we're going to do a drone of the roof, and you know, we're going to send this guy out in 3 or 4 weeks. And so that lets them put their file down for a month, so they can wait until this guy gets his report back, so they can work on other files. And so some of it is just we don't have time to deal with it, and we're going to push your claim off, and that's wrong. I mean, look, you have a catastrophe, you need to hire cat adjusters, and you need to hire enough people to handle the claims, and then you can get them paid and get the money on the street, as opposed to overwhelming some of these desk adjusters and all the reporting they have to do and everything else. That's, I think, a very big part of it. But I do know we have a call calling up.
Okay. Oh,
yeah.
yes.
Take that.
All right. Oh, okay. We got John. Let's see. Who we got? We have John from Mississippi on, Colin?
Yep, he's with
Okay.
me now.
Okay. Hey, John, you on All Things Legal. What
Hey,
you got
how
for
you
us?
doing?
Good. What you got
I
for
got
us?
A couple of questions.
Okay.
Yeah. So I own a house in Harahan. I also own a house in Mississippi. And I'm going to preface this by saying I also own a company that does a lot of work with insurance companies. What's amazing to me is that I own a house in Mississippi that is literally 1 block from the beach, faces the beach. There is nothing between the water and my house. I pay half the amount of insurance that I pay in Louisiana for my house in Harahan. Same size.
What do you attribute?
That's just not normal to me.
What do you attribute the
Well,
difference?
I can tell you why that is.
Okay,
Right?
okay.
So insurance, from its inception, right back in London, when they would bet on whether or not a ship is going to make it back or not. Right. I mean, that's kind of how it was gambling, and it ended up being insurance. And so what they would do is they would pool their resources, and so they started with these actuarial tables, and they started with, you're going to pay this amount, but it's based upon your area. And so if you look at the coastline, right, Mississippi might have 65 miles of coastline, whereas Louisiana is going to have hundreds of miles of coastline. And so Louisiana is going to be more susceptible to, that's why Florida and Louisiana have higher premiums than Mississippi and Alabama, because they just have those two little segments in between Mississippi and Florida along the coast. I mean, Louisiana and Florida along the coast. And so basically what you're doing is you're sharing your premium with the state. And so the state, the vast majority of the state is not along the coastline. And so, you might have windstorms and trees and things like that fall. But, the Camille and the Katrina thing, those were two instances where Mississippi really got hit. And so the loss ratio is not there. You're not seeing, and I think it's because of the miles of coastline.
That's interesting, because when I talk to the agent and I talk to the insurance company, verbatim, they both said the same thing. Now, this insurance company happens not to write in Louisiana. They said it's because Louisiana is more litigious than Mississippi is. That was their answer they gave me. Because I questioned them. Hey, guys, I'm just curious. And that was the answer. And that seems to be the answer that I hear in the insurance industry, that Louisiana is very litigious, more lawsuits, more issues. I personally believe a lot of this is because homeowners don't understand their policies. I mean, I just don't think people ever read their policies and understand that, for instance, replacement costs doesn't always mean you're getting all new and you're getting a check for $300,000 of contents. But I also believe that, because I deal with insurance companies every day, there are not as many insurance companies that actually have insurance adjusters working for them anymore. Y'all, y'all said something earlier about desk adjusters. They're extremely overwhelmed. I spoke to one the other day. She told me she had 300 claims, and she's supposed to talk to each one of those every month. And basically told me that's impossible.
Right.
And
so
they
what
don't
you do
have
is you hire
insurance
a third party.
anymore.
You end up hiring a TPA, right? A third party administrator, and you have some other insurance. Let them act as desk adjusters, and take your desk adjusters and let them supervise the 10 or 15 that you may hire, and then they can get the claims handled. But I see it all the time. I see this nonsensical excuse as to why we have to delay payment, and it's because one particular claim we ordered what's called the ESX file, right? And it basically shows the progression and the history of the Xactimate file as people open it and edit it, and whether they raised it or lowered it or took things out, etc. And we ordered that file, and it showed how they waited like 3 months. That this adjuster had it, and he just sat on it and didn't do anything. And so, and the other thing that he did was he recalculated the size of the second floor of the structure to lower the numbers. And so the first floor was correct. Well, the second floor sat right on top of the first floor, but it was shortened and made smaller. And so the claim came down, $5,000 or $6,000 just by the square footage. And so it was something he had to intentionally do. He had to plug that information in. And so I pointed that out to the desk adjuster, and they're like, "Oh, well, then we're going to do it. We're going to do an eagle view, and get the roof and get the exact dimensions, et cetera, et cetera." I'm like, just come on, So again, it was just another excuse to push the claim and come to find out that was 4 months ago. They've still never sent anybody out. So I think we've got a very good bad faith claim. But again, a lot of that could just be that adjuster saying, "Gee whiz, I don't have time for this, so let me think of a reason why I can kick it down the road so I can handle these 300 claims that I'm trying to deal with."
Well, and I agree 100%. I deal with insurance companies on the content side, and and I'm going to go just out. Look, I'm going to tell you, about 75% of our claims are great. About 25%, you run into issues, and the issues always seem to be, I think Exact is way outdated. Way outdated. They don't keep up with the times. They don't keep up, especially in the cat situation where prices are escalating and they don't want to pay that escalated price to get the homeowner back to pre-loss condition. But where it becomes frustrating as a vendor is when you're then dealing with an adjuster and then it gets moved. And then you start the process all over again. I have a claim that happens to be right now. We're on the 5th adjuster. And this is an easy claim. It's a fire. Yep. It's not a hurricane. It's a fire. Let's get it settled. Let's get the homeowner back. Let's get things done. And it's not unusual now that we see a house that, 8 years ago, you're moving them back in 2 months. Now it's 8 months down the road, and you have all these storage fees, everything like that. The homeowners are living someplace else. Nothing's getting done, and you're on a 5th adjuster.
Exactly.
It's just
it's extremely
one thing you want to be there are no more adjusters.
One thing you want to do is make sure in that fire claim that you've submitted the fire investigator's report to make sure the arson investigation that may have occurred is closed, because they have no duty to pay until the arson investigation is closed if one has been opened. So follow up with that, and that way you can document your file on making sure.
Take it away whenever Albert ends.
I do have a quick question for you.
Never mind.
About property damage and contents. Is necessary?
You want to take this on the other side? Yeah. Let's take this on the other side.
Let's do that. We got quick.
Yeah.
I want to know what the necessary documentation, photographs, etc.
It's almost like you're a pro at this.
For insured to prove their claim.
Yeah, John. If
go ahead.
Yeah, John. If you could hold on through the break, we'll be right back after this brief time out.
Someone who really needs you.
WWL, home of The Garden Show with Dan Gill. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Who is that? Is that the Letterman?
Monday morning on WWL.
That's the Vogues.
The Vogues.
Out of a state.
I always get them mixed
because
up.
It's red or blue.
Let me see.
We'll take a
Let
look
me
at
see
the
if I
week
can
ahead
find
on Wall
this.
Street Monday morning markets with Mark Rosa at 7:45. Join me, Tommy Tucker, for that and a whole lot more. Always live, local and original. 6 till 10 a.m. right here on WWLAMFM.com and the Odyssey app.
At Ethos Life, we busted all the myths about getting life insurance. Like myth number 1.
Life insurance? I can't afford that.
At Ethos, we have term life policies everyone can afford, with policies as low as $7 a month. Or myth number 2.
I have a life insurance policy through work. That's good enough.
With workplace coverage usually only equal to a year's salary, that won't nearly be enough to cover your family's ongoing and future expenses. A long-term, affordable policy from Ethos
Jimmy Buffett.
can give you the peace of mind that if something happens to you, your
what of Jimmy Buffett
for
What do you
years to
think?
come.
What's
Myth
a good
number 3.
Getting
Margaritaville?
life insurance? It's just too complicated.
at Ethos are 100% hassle-free online process.
I would say it's cliche, but it's such a good song. You just can't, like, it's cliche for a reason.
It is.
Medical
That's right.
exams or blood work needed. Just answer a few health questions. Get your free online estimate at ethoslife.com. That's ETHOS life.com. Rates will vary based on age, underwriting, face amount, and type of policy.
Are you ready to ditch the itch this season and take your backyard back? With J&J Exterminating, getting rid of what's bugging you is what we do every day. From mosquitoes to ants to no-see-ums, J&J...
I got it queued up for the rock.
Go away. J&J provides mosquito one-time treatments for special occasions or misting systems that get rid of mosquitoes every day, all day long. Call J&J Exterminating, Louisiana's largest independent pest control firm with over 55 years experience.
Oh, I got a good one for the next one, too. The Boys of Summer.
The Pink Floyd Laser Spectacular, celebrating 50 years of Dark Side of the Moon this Thursday night.
I mean, we don't have that many left. We'll come back. We'll probably carry John until our 50 break, and then we'll go to break, come back, and
close it out
on what is a very insurance-focused program.
Mm-hmm. That's why.
Or Here Comes the Sun. That would be the other one.
Trusted Garcia Roofing. For more information, visit GarciaDidMyRoof.com.
Hi, I'm Henry Winkler. My eyes are very important to me. My eyes connect me with things I love. I loved my late father-in-law dearly. He always lit up a room, but his vision dimmed with age. He had age-related macular degeneration, or AMD. And since partnering with Apellis, I've learned there's an advanced form of the disease called geographic atrophy, or GA. His struggle with vision loss made me want to help others know about GA's warning signs. For some, straight lines seem wavy, like when looking at a door frame. For others, blurry or missing spots can make it hard to read or see loved ones' faces. Many have trouble seeing in low light, making driving at night difficult. GA gets worse over
All right, we're back in about 45 seconds.
Reversed. If you've been diagnosed with AMD and notice vision changes, don't wait. Talk to your eye doctor about GA today. Learn more at GAWon'tWait.com. That's GAWon'tWait.com.
Baseball is in full.
And just to double check, I already uploaded the first hour. Thomas Brown is the founder of eClaims.
He's president, owner of eClaims.
Well, I want to get the title right.
I'll text it to you.
Yeah, just text me because I don't want to call. I mean, I already uploaded the podcast saying he was the founder, but I can go back and edit it later. But I want to make sure I get it right.
Where you are, your season, your Odyssey. Get in the game and download the free Odyssey app today.
Wasting away again in Margaritaville. Now, more All Things Legal. Underwritten by Nicaud and Sunseri Law Firm. All advice given and opinion shared are solely those of attorneys Albert Nicaud and Doug Sunseri. Back to WWL.
Hey, we're back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, All Things Legal. John has been gracious enough to stay over the break. And Albert, you had a question for John on...
Yeah, just a quick question. You mentioned that you dealt with insurance companies on the contents end, and I don't know what what side or who you might be representing, but from your perspective, what is satisfactory, proof of a contents claim? Obviously, other than photographs showing the damage, but in terms of confirming what contents you had and how much what the value is.
Okay, so what we deal with is the cleaning end of it, and we're not a first notice of loss vendor or contractor. We usually get called in either by the insurance company that says, hey, we have a loss, so they've already determined the loss, or we'll get called in sometimes by a contractor, Servpro, Service Master, Independent, somebody like that says, hey, look, we have this loss. We need you to handle all of these contents. So typically it's already been done, but we have gotten called out. We do get called out and say, look, we need you to go take a look at this. And it's pictures, it's chem sponges. It's really determining what the loss was. Like there's a fire. A lot of times you can walk right in and see the soot all over the place. And you're like, okay, this all has to get cleaned. Then we do, typical, take all of our pictures. It's not unusual to anywhere between 100 and 1,000 pictures on a job site. And then documenting everything as it's coming out, how many shirts, pants, clothes, things like that, artwork, electronics, furniture, just documenting everything before it goes, get an invoice together or an estimate and get it approved before you do anything else, before anything's clean.
Right, but I'm just saying, what do you do in terms of valuation? How do you evaluate those electronics? How do you place a number on that? Electronics might be easier; they have a model number, but the sofa in somebody's den.
Well, we don't do it. We don't.
But in 5 years,
it's
I don't
not.
remember what I paid for.
Yeah. We're not sitting there going, look, I could walk into a house and go, this TV's not worth cleaning. Okay. I don't sit there typically and walk in and do that. What we do is give them a price, and we try, if you got an old CRT TV, it's not worth cleaning, but we test everything first to see if it even powers up, things like that. But, if they're looking, it's very rare that an insurance company comes to us and says, hey, look, is this worth cleaning? Typically, the cleaning costs are about 18% of retail value, typically. So if they do value of, hey,
yeah, I think we
might have lost.
There you go.
All right. Well, I appreciate the call.
Yes. Basically, yeah.
We have, Doug, when we're dealing with a contents claim, there'll be like really even on a property loss claim, for the structure, just over depreciation, right?
Right.
So I don't know how. I mean, like we had some instances where it was clear, and the insured made has receipts that the carpeting was replaced 6 months before the storm, but they depreciated at 50%. And so where do you get those tables, and where do how do you, as the insurer, how does the insurer calculate that? Where do they come up with those numbers in terms of the percentages of depreciation on even the structural stuff, but even the contents? How do you know to depreciate my contents, and based upon what? Is there a useful life? And I do know, I remember, but I did work for USF&G. There was like a depreciation schedule, but it was kind of global, and it wasn't as specific because there's so many different types of contents and aspects of it that, if it's a dishwasher, it's one thing. If it's a dining room table, that could last 100 years. So, those were the kind of issues that we brought up that if you have a big contents claim, you can get into a pretty good fight over.
It's definitely not uniform, and that leaves us.
Yeah, there's no standards, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Right.
And that's that. And when it's not uniform, that leads to dispute. All right, let's go to our final break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. We'll be right back after this brief timeout. Oh yeah.
Come on back home, baby. Sorry, I lost it. Come on back home, baby. I lost it. Come on back home, baby. Sorry, I lost it.
WWL.
Oh,
home
man.
of the Home Improvement Show with Paul LaGrange. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Harold Melvin.
Don't know what happened there. I still had John on the line on my end, so I had no clue what happened there.
Yeah, I think he
Start with BetQL. Download
hit
the
a
BetQL app
hit a cell.
or visit betql.com today. WWL is proudly sponsored by Dudley DeBosier Injury Lawyers. Call 504.
How long we gonna have?
4444. Non-attorney spokesperson.
What'd you say, Doug?
How long we're gonna have? When we
According
come
to
back.
the French poet Madeleine de
Couple
Scudéry,
minutes, 2 minutes, 3
the
minutes.
indifferent have
At 3 to 4.
All right, gotcha.
Probably 3 to 4.
That's cool.
have to. Of course, when you love, there's only one place to go for wedding jewelry, and that's Aucoin Hart. But don't take Madeleine de Scudéry's word for it. Listen to what Joseph said in his online review. These people care about their profession and take care of their customers. Their jewelry speaks for itself. Amazing experience all the way around. Aucoin Hart is constantly searching the world diamond markets for the most beautiful natural diamonds you'll ever see. Every diamond we sell has been personally selected by a member of the Aucoin.
I got Albert's song pick. We're going to come back with Summer from War. We will do that. No reason why you guys can take it away.
War.
It's
War,
true.
I like that.
C'est vrai. There's a great work of art in every box from Aucoin Hart on Metairie Road.
Come on down to the Silver Slipper.
Hi, this is John from the Silver Slipper Casino, inviting you to join us here at the Slipper every Thursday night for our very popular Rumble on the Gulf. Now, the beach bar under the hotel will be open starting at 4 p.m. We'll have great barbecue available and live music starting at 6. So come on out and party with us while you enjoy seeing all those classic cars, Jeeps, and motorcycles that roll in every Thursday. We're on the beach here in Hancock County, Silver Slipper Casino. Proud to be your host on the coast.
Have a good time at the Silver Slipper.
Join us at Odyssey as we all do our one thing, together millions of things for our planet. During summer, be sure to use dishwashers and stoves in the evening to minimize the effects of heat. When we each share our one thing, it becomes a million things for our planet. What's your one thing?
Spencer Callahan is the one to see. Call 475-2323.
LA 121-12674. Offices in Baton Rouge.
Call 475-2323.
Glow Resources. Complete employee solutions. GlowResources.com.
At Ethos Life, we busted all the myths about getting life insurance. Like myth number 1.
Life insurance? I can't afford that.
At Ethos, we have term life policies everyone can afford, with policies as low as $7
Yeah, I
a
checked
month.
up. So he is the founder of eClaim. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to keep putting that he's the founder of that.
Okay.
That's good enough.
With workplace coverage usually only equal to a year's salary, that won't nearly be enough.
We're back in
to cover your
about
family's
30
ongoing and future
seconds.
expenses.
So
A
yeah,
long-term,
we'll have
affordable policy
about
from Ethos
like
can
3.
give you the peace of mind that if something happens to you, your family is well covered for years to come. Myth number 3.
Getting life insurance? It's just too complicated.
At Ethos, our 100% hassle-free online process can give you a quote in seconds, application in minutes, and coverage in hours, with no medical exams or blood work needed. Just answer a few health questions. Get your free online estimate at ethoslife.com. That's ETHOS life.com. Rates will vary based on age, underwriting, face amount, and type of policy.
Take it away whenever you want.
Hey, we're back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers. That was your pick, Albert? Summertime?
Yeah, more. I used to love that song.
That
a lot of those songs that he played today kind of date themselves. That listening to the 8-track in the van. Rapping on the CB radio, and then just when he played Margaritaville, right?
Right.
All those chorus covered with oil when we used to put tanning oil on our body.
Nowadays.
Stepped in a pop top. They don't have pop tops anymore.
That's true.
A lot of those songs just kind of date themselves, putting them back. But yeah, rapping on the CB radio is one of the one of the lyrics to the war song. The CBs, that was the precursor to cell phones, I guess. You could ride around in your car and talk to people on the CB and Breaker 19.
You see, my dad's CB handle was before Rocky, and he was the Italian Stallion. That was his. Yeah. So yeah, he was. That was before Rocky. Yeah. So he was. When Rocky came up with it, or when Mickey came up with it, he stole it from my dad. So yeah.
Yeah, we have to make a claim, Doug. You could be wealthy.
That's right. Well,
30 seconds.
You're looking for those Smokies. I remember that, the Smokies.
Yeah, look at the Smokies.
Breaker 19. I remember that. Gee, we're just dating ourselves there. All right.
20 seconds.
Got 20 seconds to go. Tell them goodbye, Albert.
All right, guys. See y'all next week. Have a great week.
All right. I'll see you on All Things Legal. Stay cool.
Great show as always, team. You guys fucking killed it.
Good job, Colin, man. You do some good music there.
Yeah, I know.
You do, man. It makes a big difference.
I appreciate it. I really do.
I mean, for 15 years, I've been looking for someone who would like get into it. So I appreciate it.
It adds a layer of the show. It adds layers to the show.
Absolutely.
And it going through the same old bumper music, just like